What's going on there, folks? All right, now this is a video that I meant to do or wanted to do a few times over the past couple years. I always said I was going to do it, and I kind of got steered in a different direction. And, you know, for whatever reason, I never made it. The reason why I'm doing it now only is because Ridgid just released their new subcompact platform, and a lot of people had a lot of questions. There was a lot of confusion with, 480 foot-pounds, 620, and, people were going nuts. And it's got more power than the Milwaukee. That can't be true. Now, obviously, it wasn't true, but we're going to talk about Ridgid and Milwaukee. All right. I'm not going to get into Ryobi. That's a whole nother ball game. All right. That's a whole nother video. All right. But I want to talk about some of the basics that some of you might know and some of you might not know. Okay. Now, TTI, big company, right? Large, huge. All right. A lot of people think they're a Chinese company, right? A lot of the stuff's made in China, right? And that goes for every company out there, guys. Whether it's Makita, Bosch, DeWalt, all of them. It's just makes sense, and that's the way the world turns, right? That's how business is. Cheaper to produce the products there, all right? TTI was based in Hong Kong for a long time. They still have a presence there, but they recently moved to Macau, the gambling capital of Asia over there. But TTI, the only company, now they own other brands, but I'm talking about of the big five, big six. I'm not going to talk about Hart, right? We know, or if you don't know, TTI does own Hart Tools. But the only company that TTI 100% owns is Milwaukee Tool. Okay? All right. So I still get all the time about Ridgid, right? Ridgid, it's the same thing. I get them in the comments. It's just an orange Milwaukee. All right. Now, TTI makes the power tools for Ridgid. Okay. All right. The brand Ridgid is owned by Emerson Electric. Okay. Now, a lot of you guys don't know, but it's not even a deal really with Ridgid and TTI as much as it is a deal with Ridgid and the Home Depot. Okay. Ridgid has a deal with Home Depot to sell their products exclusively at their big box stores. All right. Where they sell a few plumbing items, garbage disposals, and some other stuff. Another part of that is power tools. All right. Now, Emerson didn't want to get into the game of consumer grade tools. Okay. So Home Depot told Emerson to reach out to TTI, and they would probably help them make the 18 volt power platform, 18 volt platform for Ridgid. All right. Now, TTI manufactures all of Ridgid's power tools sold at Home Depot. Okay. Part of that agreement with TTI and Emerson is that Emerson has to approve all products, packaging, and branding content before they can be sold at the Home Depot. All right. So Emerson takes a cut of Home Depot's final sales of all things that is Ridgid branded. Okay. I'm trying to find the subcompact stuff here. Okay. All things Ridgid branded to pay for that exclusive contract. So remember, Ridgid has a contract with the Home Depot. Okay. The Home Depot. All right. Now, a lot of you guys know AEG, right? AEG is basically the... Okay, so now you also have AEG tools. Now, a lot of you guys are familiar with AEG. A lot of you guys may not be familiar with AEG. AEG is basically the European, Australian version of Ridgid tools. Okay. Now, AEG is more of a licensing deal. Now, again, TTI does not own AEG as well. They don't own Ridgid. They don't own AEG. Okay. AEG is more of a licensing deal. Like I said, Ridgid is not really a licensing deal because, Emerson has to approve everything that is released that TTI wants to release at the Home Depot. Emerson has a final say in it. TTI makes money from the manufacturing of the tools. Okay. That's where they make the money. All right. But as for AEG, all right, this brand, AEG, is owned by Electrolux. I get that a lot. A lot of people think Ridgid is owned by Electrolux, and a lot of people think AEG is owned by Emerson. Remember, Ridgid is owned by Emerson Electric. It's on the New York Stock Exchange. AEG is owned by Electrolux Electric, which, they make vacuums. Obviously, Emerson does too. And Emerson makes a lot. They actually make some of the 18-volt vacuums. All right. There's a new Ridgid vacuum that is coming out. Let's take a look at, maybe they got the subcompact. But as you can see, they look very similar to the Ridgid power tools here. And I'm going to be skipping around here. But like I said, it's more of a licensing deal with AEG as compared to Ridgid. So they get to use, TTI gets to use the AEG name. All right. So they can sell it at more locations if they want, but they still have to get approval. But you don't have to jump over as many hurdles. TTI doesn't have to jump over as many hurdles with AEG as they do with Ridgid. All right. I get it a lot, guys, with the OPE stuff. And every time when I posted the little picture of something big is coming from Ridgid, I got a lot of comments hoping that it was, OPE tools. I said it in some of the comments, but Emerson doesn't want anything related to OPE products. All right. Emerson doesn't feel Ridgid customers want or need OPE tools. Okay. So you can forget about that. And, you have to kind of put it out of your head that just because, Milwaukee has an OPE line that they're going to bring it to Ridgid. They're not. For one, they don't own Ridgid. For two, Emerson owns them. And whatever they want to sell, TTI, they have to get approved by Emerson and really the Home Depot. And getting back, I want to make one comment real quick too, because a lot of you guys who follow me, my opinions about the 7¼ inch miter saw. Now, I put a video up on that miter saw because I saw it on Ridgid. It's still on Ridgid's website, actually. But you kind of heard me say over the past couple years, and I still think it's a possibility, okay? But from what I was told, the reason why they discontinued, now, if you do have the Ridgid 7¼ inch brushless miter saw, and you've ever seen the Milwaukee version, I mean, very, very, very similar. But, take this with a grain of salt. But this is definitely a reason what I'm going to tell you. But I think they know they had a good product. And that's what you have to remember, too. It doesn't matter if a tool is good or bad when it comes to Ridgid tools. It's if it's going to sell. Okay? It could be the best tool, in the world. It could be the best, that Ridgid miter saw could be the best 7¼ inch miter saw in the world. If it doesn't sell, it's gone. It's all about sales. All right? Remember, it's a contract that Emerson has with the Home Depot with these Ridgid tools. All right. And, you hear me say it all the time, space is king. All right. A miter saw is a very big item. So, in order to kind of keep it in the store, you know, it's got to sell. All right. And they had they have a lot of other miter saws available at Home Depot, 7 1/4 inch as well. Um, that I guess the 7 1/4 inch Ridgid. Sorry, because I think it's a great tool, and I think it's one of the best Ridgid tools out there. Um, it just didn't sell, so that's what I was told. It didn't sell, and it didn't sell. Not only didn't it sell in store, it didn't sell online, and I'm very shocked because actually, what Ridgid is pretty well known for its miter saws. Um, I think they sell a whole bunch of miter saws. But for some reason, shocking to me, and again, from what I've been told, didn't sell well in the store and it didn't sell well online. It was gone forever. But, um, so basically, what the whole point of this video is, guys, is, TTI doesn't own Ridgid. All right. Now, does that mean they're good? They make garbage. They don't care what they put out. Absolutely not. Okay. And getting back to the OPE stuff with AEG and Ridgid, a lot of people always say, hey, I don't understand why Ridgid don't have an OPE line here in the United States. AEG has an outdoor power equipment line in Europe and in Australia and overseas. The reason why you see that is because they're two separately owned companies, right? Ridgid is owned by Emerson. AEG is owned by Electrolux. Electrolux wants a OPE platform for their customers, for their platform, their 18-volt platform. Emerson does not. Emerson doesn't believe, though I disagree, and I'm sure a lot of you guys disagree, but they believe that their customers have no need or wants of an OPE platform in the Ridgid name, the Ridgid platform. Okay. Guys, you hear me say it all the time. I don't think there's a better tool that you can get for the money when I do my Ridgid hack videos than these Ridgid Octane 18-volt brushless tools. $75 for a 6-mode impact driver, a 600 foot-pound impact wrench for $80. All right. They're great tools, they're fine tools, but they're two separate entities. They're priced different, they're designed different, they're tested different, but it comes down to money, right? And obviously they're priced totally different. All right. So it's not a knock on Ridgid, guys, but let's just put it to you this way. And again, I have no idea what it costs to make these tools, but the Ridgid impact driver, off the top of my head, I'm just gonna make it really crazy, only just to show. Cost them $15 to make. Okay, so but they're gonna sell it for $30. Okay, the Milwaukee cost them $30 to make. They're gonna sell it for $45. All right, so that's basically what it is, guys. The amount of money that TTI puts into Milwaukee is a lot more money than goes into Ridgid, a manufacturing deal, than Milwaukee, their own company owned brand. All right. So testing, engineering, man hours, marketing. The big thing is marketing because, there's no better marketing company than Milwaukee with these tools. But Ridgid is a great brand. It's a quality brand and it's a reliable brand. All right, guys. And not to say There's not a lot of tradesmen, a lot of professionals out there using Ridgid tools. All you have to do is go on Instagram, and there's plenty of people. And in fact, not only using Ridgid tools, you hear me talk about it all the time. A lot of people are using Ryobi as well. A lot of people use Porter cable. All right. But this is more of a video to kind of explain who owns who's making what for who, what's going on with AEG, and how come they don't have an OPE line in the US. AEG has one in Europe and Australia. Just breaking it down, all right? But you know, Ridgid is a fine brand, and I know, trust me, it has a very big following, has a cult following. If you're having success using Ridgid, whether you're a consumer, DIY guy, or if you're using them professionally in your line of business, in your work, keep using them. It's all about getting the job done and most efficiently at the best price. All right, we'll catch you on the flip.